Thank you all. Please be seated. Attorney Raymond.
Thank you. Crest, I'm going to approach you and show you a series of pictures of things found on your property and talk to you about those. First, I'm going to show you what has been marked as exhibits 58 through 63. Do you just want to flip through those? Yeah, you absolutely. I'm just going to ask you a couple of questions here. And we're going to have testimony about this later, but Exhibit 58 is a garbage can found in the woods. Did you keep a Rubbermaid or a black rubber garbage can in your woods?
No.
And Exhibit 59, what is that a picture of?
That's an old, I don't know if it's fuel oil or gas. It's for scrap. I just haven't took it to the salvage yard yet.
Okay. Did you keep any tools in Exhibit 59?
In there?
Yes.
No.
What is picture 60?
That's the entrance to my driveway, and I don't recognize the car. There's a bag, and that's where I keep my recycling and my trash.
And that bag appears to be a Target bag?
I think so. I'm not sure.
And 61 is a close-up of the same?
Right.
And 62 and 63 are some items that were found in that Target bag. Did those items belong to your house?
No.
Did you throw those items away?
No.
And your father is 94, you said?
Yes.
Only other person that lives there?
Right. Well, my brother, but he was at assisted living at the time.
Okay. So your father, it would take great effort to go and throw anything away outside.
No, he couldn't.
State at this time would move exhibits 58 through 63 into evidence.
Any objection?
None.
They are received.
And I will ask you about these in a minute, but if you want to just look through those in the meantime, I'm going to publish 58 through 63 to the jury. And Ms. Lasai, the little screen in front of you will have what I'm showing the jury. So what do I have to do? Thank you. The clerk is working on that. That second group of photos that I showed you, how would you describe those as a group?
As a group, well, this is the tobacco shed that you called the barn. It's the shed. Looks better now, though.
Why does it look better now?
Well, yeah, because I cleaned it out. I got a big dumpster. Been meaning to do it for some years now. I didn't get through it because I got a little upset there for a second.
That's okay. But 66 through 70 are pictures of your barn before you cleaned it out.
That's correct.
And 71 through 74 are pictures of something that you later found in your barn during the cleanout.
That's right.
Okay. I would move to admit pictures 66 through 74.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
They are received. While you have identified the exhibits and testified about them, the ability to publish them to the jury requires the state to go through them with you again, but with the jury able to see those photos at this time.
Okay, thank you.
No, it's never perfect because of the glare, but, this is the garbage can picture, exhibit 58 that I showed you that was found in the woods, but it was not yours.
No.
And how would you describe exhibit 59?
It's an old fuel tank that's been sitting there for a while. We're going to take it to salvage, and you have to cut a hole in there so that they know you don't fill it with concrete or something, so they want to look in there.
Okay. And again, you didn't keep anything such as tools inside of it.
No.
And exhibit 60, is that a picture at the end of your driveway?
Right.
And is this where you keep the garbage cans?
Yeah, that's where I put the trash and the recycling.
Now, during the time of this, in the first week of July, did you have an experience of your garbage cans being moved?
No, not that I'm aware of. I don't recall. I don't even know if I took trash out that week.
Okay. So you do not recall a day when they may have been at the road and then somebody put them back?
No, I'm not aware of that.
That's okay.
But that could have happened, just meaning because Dulce sometimes, like if the trash is out and she goes out, sometimes she'll put it back and I don't know about it. That could have happened. I don't know.
Sure, fair enough. But there's a Target bag here. Do you normally keep your trash outside of your garbage cans?
No, I would have put it in the trash.
All right. And that's exhibit 60. Exhibit 61. Just a close-up of exhibit 60.
Right.
All right, and then I showed you exhibit 62, stuff that was found inside of that Target bag. Some rags with a substance on them. Did you throw away those rags?
No.
And exhibit 63, just been separated out. Moving on, exhibit 66. How would you describe exhibit 66?
Well, that's the north side of my shed. And my little lawnmower.
Okay. And exhibit 67?
Yeah, it's just showing you the entrance there on the north side.
Exhibit 68.
Yep, that's the messy shed.
Exhibit 69, more the same.
Right.
Exhibit 70, there's an item here along the back wall, kind of by some boards.
Yeah, there's a bird bath there.
Can you tell at all from this angle what was behind the bird bath?
Well, there's a rifle there.
And at some point, you discover a rifle in your barn.
Yes.
Do you keep guns in your barn?
Not normally. My dad, sometimes he'd keep a pellet gun up there, but he hasn't been walking for a few years, so.
So what did you do well, first off, when did you first see this gun?
Well, I was organizing along the wall, like I say, I was cleaning out my shed, and I wanted to go through these, like, garden tools, because making sure I still use them, were they broken, when I was gonna throw them away, so and then I was organizing, putting lumber where the lumber goes, the recycling where the recycling goes, and so I lifted up a board, and I saw a barrel of a gun, and I thought, right away I thought, what's my dad, what the heck has he got his pellet gun over here? So I picked it up by the barrel and looked at it, and I right away recognized it wasn't a gun that I'd ever saw or seen ever before.
And just to be clear for the jury, this gun, before you lifted it up, was behind a board?
Yes, it was behind us, there was like maybe 4 or 5 different boards there.
Okay. So upon realizing you don't know where this gun came from, what do you do?
Well, the first thing is I just felt sort of this sick feeling, and I set it back down, and then I went to ask my father just to make sure that he didn't know about any gun in the shed, and I went and asked, and he said, well, what does it look like, or whatever, and I said, well, Dad, I'm just gonna call the police, and then I called Krista, the head of the investigation. She left me her number, And I called her and spoke with her and told her what I'd found, and she told me that she was going to send somebody out.
Okay, and do you remember roughly what month or?
Oh, it was in the middle of October-ish because I wanted to clean out the shed earlier, but the police were there for so long. My raspberries started, so it was after the raspberries were done, which was sometime in the end of October-ish.
Okay, all right, so it was a few months later.
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna show you Exhibit 71. Is that a picture of the gun that you found in your barn?
It's kind of a glare.
Oh, I'm sorry, it is.
Yeah. It looks to be.
Okay,
Do you want to look at the actual photo?
Yeah, that would
I
be
sure can do that.
helpful. But it looks similar. Yes.
Ms. Raymond, if you want to show that to the jury as you
Oh, I
walk
forgot.
back towards the Elmo.
Bless you.
And Exhibit 72, let's see if I can get that to be a little better. That's just a close-up of the same.
Yes.
And then I actually will publish 73 and 74. So did the police then in October, after you found the gun, come and retrieve the gun?
Yes.
And in July, when Chandler was on your farm, did you have your barn or your shed locked at all?
No.
No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hi.
Picking up where you just left off, do you ever lock or close up that shed or barn?
I haven't for some years. When I used to go to Florida in the winter, I would close it and lock it, but I haven't been there for a while. So, no.
And is it fair to say that before you got the garbage bin and did the major cleaning of the shed, you didn't know exactly every item that was in there, right?
No, not every single item, no.
And you testified that there was a delay in getting the garbage bin and cleaning out that shed because the police were there for a while.
That's correct.
How long were they there in possession of your property or on your property?
Ooh, seemed like forever. A couple of weeks at least, maybe longer.
And they had closed off that area to you?
Yes, they got kind of upset every time I come up with a lawnmower because I couldn't even mow my lawn, and it was frustrating. So, but they pretty much kept me by my house. They didn't really want me anywhere around.
And was it your understanding that they were searching that area at that time?
Yeah, they were searching my whole property. They served me with a warrant.
Now, moving back in time a little bit to 4th of July weekend, I think I heard you testified that Chandler Halderson was not acting like himself. Is that right?
That's correct.
And it was for that observation that you and Dulce might have thought, oh, is he doing some drugs? Is that right?
Yeah, it was a question because we couldn't figure out why he seemed a little off.
And you had never seen him like that before, right?
No.
And normally he's sort of a quiet, nerdy kid, right?
Yeah, that's a good description.
That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
May Ms. Lasai be excused at this time,
She's excused.
but not released?
Correct.
That means that you're still under the subpoena with which you've been served, so you can't discuss your testimony with anyone, but you're excused unless recalled by the state at any time. You can stay in touch with them. Thank you very much.
All right, thank
Have
you.
a good rest of your day.
The state calls Brent Baverstock to the stand.
Yep.
Do you solemnly swear affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
See you again.
Detective, you anticipated my question. If you're willing and able to safely and responsibly testify without a mask, please do so. Thank you. Attorney Brown.
Good afternoon. Please state and spell your name for the jury.
It's Brent Baverstock, Brent Baverstock.
What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a detective with the Dane County Sheriff's Office.
In your role as a detective with the Dane County Sheriff's Office, were you asked to follow up in the investigation of two missing people, Bart Halderson and Krista Halderson, in the early part of July of 2021?
Yes.
Initially, what was your role in the investigation?
I was not initially a part of the first response to it. However, maybe shortly before noon on July 8th, Detective Liz Allen came to my office. She said she had just had a phone call with the mother of Chandler Mellender, who was the girlfriend of Chandler Halderson. And during that phone call, she intended to do initially just a phone interview, just kind of get some background information, but some things on that phone call alerted her to believe that we needed to follow up with a in-person interview. So she came to my office and asked me to sit in on that interview because we try to interview people, with at least two detectives there to support each other.
Sure. And was that with Dulce?
That was with Dulce, correct.
And just briefly, if you could describe Dulce's kind of emotional state during some of that interview.
Well, we got to the location where we agreed to interview her, which is she was in the middle of some classes, trying to improve her education. And we sat in a side little conference room, and she was emotionally distraught. She kind of had this look of fear and panic in her eyes.
Okay. Now, they've testified, so we're not going to talk much about that interview. But at some point, do you end up going to a farm that you thought might have been visited by Chandler Halderson over the 4th of July weekend and leading into the next week?
Yeah, based upon our interviews with them, we determined we needed to get out to that farm right away and search it.
Sure. I think it's been described as being near Cottage Grove, but kind of in a rural area of Dane County. That sound fair to you?
Yes.
The entire location of that farm, is that here in Dane County, Wisconsin?
Yes, it is.
And fairly remote?
Yeah.
Had you ever been there before?
No.
If you could describe the farm just in general to us.
Sure. Well, it's probably 30 to 40 acres. A lot of it is wooded. The house sits in a wooded area. There's a paved driveway that goes up from the road that kind of turns off to where the house is. And then if you kept going straight on that, it would turn into a gravel, and then up into the grassy area would be where like the back shed was, and the pool and the raspberries.
Did you personally yourself walk out there with Cress or Dulce or anybody?
Yes, I did.
Who was with you?
Well, I had first gone there, responded out there pretty quickly. There were a lot of red flags that popped up during my interview with Cresent, and I called to the command post to Detective Sims, and I talked to her, and I'm like, I need some more people. We need to get out here. We need to search this place right away. But we were pretty stretched thin at that point. We had sent a team up to, a team was headed up to the cabin to do some more investigation up there. I'm like, we need some more people. We need to get out there and search it. So she was able to provide at least another detective, Detective Tim Blank, along with me and Detective Liz Allen. And then while I was on the way, I contacted Barry Ehrman from the Dane County Medical Examiner's Office and asked him to respond with his cadaver dog to help us do the search.
Sure.
I got there and nobody was there. I had expected Cress and Dulce to beat me there. I went to the house, knocked on the door, and nobody answered. And I got worried that they may went up and started searching on their own. So I went up there. I went up into the grassy area. Like you can see, you have a photo of the farm there. So I could see whether or not anybody was back by there. And, I noticed, during my contact with Cress, she did talk that she had recently seen vultures circling over the property.
Your Honor, I'm going to object as hearsay.
Sure.
Sustained.
Did you yourself at some point see some birds over the woods?
Yes,
And what were those birds?
turkey vultures.
And did that raise red flags to you?
Oh, yeah.
Why?
Most birds really don't have a sense of smell except for turkey vultures. Turkey vultures actually, when a body or an animal or creature dies, it starts going through some changes. The microorganisms on there start producing different gases, and it emanates an odor. Turkey vultures can smell that. And when they do, they'll start circling the area to locate where it's coming from.
And were those turkey vultures over the wooded area at the farm?
When I got there, yeah.
Okay. Did you find Cress and Dulce as you walked back there?
Eventually, I walked up there, I didn't see them, and then Cress came out of the back sliding patio door and met me. And then I asked her if she could show me again where she had seen Chandler back by the woods. And we walked back up to the area of the shed, and she showed me.
When you say she showed you, did she point physically?
Yeah, she did.
All right. And so what I'm going to have you do, and because she's already testified, you can't say what she said, but you saw her point at a location?
Yes.
Can you please stand up for 1 second and point on that map to the location that Cress pointed out to you as where she saw Chandler?
Sure.
Thank you.
Well, I asked her to tell me exactly where she had seen the vehicle parked. We walked up and came over this area. She said the vehicle was parked in this area. And then she said that when she first saw Chandler coming out of...
Your Honor, objection, hearsay again.
I'm sorry, I missed the part of the objection.
It was
Hearsay again about what someone told him.
Sustained.
And maybe I'll ask a better question. When she physically herself pointed at a location where she saw Chandler coming out of the woods, where was that location?
Well, we were standing right about here.
Okay.
She pointed back with this direction.
Okay, physically put her hand up and pointed?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You can take a seat.
Do you want to describe that for the record, counsel?
I will. I would say that the witness just pointed toward the wood line, approximately a foot below that barn, where the barn is. Counsel's nodding in agreement, so I think that's fair to say. At that point, what did you do?
Well, my partners hadn't arrived yet, so I asked for Krista to go back and wait in the house, and I told her that my partners would be here soon and we'd start doing our search. We returned back to the driveway, and Detective Blank and Detective Allen had arrived shortly thereafter, and then we went back up to that area and we started looking around.
So I'm going to ask you what you saw first. When you got down to that area, all these, I'll pause for a second. I apologize for maybe being sporadic there. All of these vehicles in the photograph, those are related to law enforcement and the investigation, correct?
Correct.
There were not a bunch of vehicles parked out there when you were there?
No.
Were there any vehicles parked out there other than law enforcement vehicles?
There's one vehicle parked inside the shed, but not visible, I think, from that photograph.
Understood. As you got over toward, let's say, that junk pile before the grass gets longer there, did you see any signs that a car had been over there?
Yes.
What did you see?
Well, Detective Blank pointed it out first. He pointed over and he said, well, it looks like cars driven through the tall grass over here. I'm like, yeah, it does. So we went over there and we saw there were 2 tracks of the taller grass. The grass is probably about, waist high. You can see the 2 track marks that go back along the parallel with the wood line there.
Okay. And at that point or shortly thereafter, you and other detectives began maybe searching a little bit closer into where those tire tracks went?
Yeah, we began to follow them. They went back probably about to an area where there were some some white wooden boxes that are old beehives. They're just kind of stored along the tree line.
And that's before you entered the woods, correct?
That's before I entered the woods.
Okay, so we're going to pause there, and I'm going to have you look at a couple of exhibits first, so we're all on the same page. Exhibits 75 through 81. Just page through those and give me just, in general, what am I looking at there?
Okay. 75 is the driveway entrance for the residents to the farm.
Okay. You can keep going.
Okay. 76 is just going up further along the driveway. You can see it starts to split at the end there. This little angle to the right here goes towards the house, and the one that continues straight on is the one that continues to where it becomes gravel and goes up towards the field. Here's where if you were to take that little fork in the driveway and go right, you would see the house. That's number 77. Number 78 is the back side of the house, but if you drive in to the driveway, so the garage would be on the right side of this picture. So this would be facing back towards like the pool area.
Sure.
And that's number 78. 79 is the gravel driveway where the paved portion turns into gravel and then continues up towards the pool.
Okay.
That's 79.
80?
80 is after the gravel driveway ends, and we're now heading to just the grassy area to where you see the raspberry garden here and then the pool.
Okay.
And then 81, this is the area in which Cresent had pointed out to me that the vehicle had parked, and she actually noted out that these tire marks here in the grass.
Your Honor, I'm going to object again as hearsay.
Sustained. Sure.
But is 81 that area that was pointed out?
Correct.
All right, I'll take those exhibits. I'll move to publish 75 through 81.
I think they haven't been moved into evidence yet.
I'll move them into evidence.
Any
No
objection?
objection.
They are received, you may publish.
And if you could put the HDMI 2 on, I'm going to display these off my computer so there's no glare. Exhibit number 75, we're looking at the driveway coming from the street up to the house. Is that correct?
That is correct.
We'll just page through these. 76, that's that driveway going up right before the split.
Correct.
77, coming up toward the house.
Yep, that's the split to the right, looking at the house.
78, a view of the house.
Correct.
That's the lawnmower we might have heard about, people driving around.
Yes.
And if we're looking at this house, beyond it is the pool and the shed and that grassy area, correct?
If you were standing at that patio door and looking away from the house would be the pool.
Okay. 79, the gravel driveway as it goes up towards the pool in that area.
Correct.
80, now we're up kind of in that grassy area.
Yep, that's where the gravel ends and it's just the open area.
And 81, I think you described this as generally kind of the start of the area that was pointed out to you.
Yeah, it's the mowed area just to the south of the big shed.
Sure. I'm going to do this a little bit differently now. I'm going to show you what's been marked in this case as exhibits number 82 through 107. Just by yourself, page through those, and the question at the end is going to be, are these photographs of essentially that area leading up to what you found and the items that you found in the woods? I'm going to ask you, and then we're going to look at them all together, okay?
Okay.
So you can just look through those and let me know if that's what we're looking at.
Is that 82 to 107, counsel?
Correct.
Thank you.
Question, are those photographs of leading out to the area that was pointed out to you, and then ultimately your search into the woods and maybe what you found?
Yes, they are.
Appear true and accurate to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, they are.
I would move 82 through 107.
No objection.
They are received.
All right, we're going to do this together. We're going to walk through them. So you see,
And Detective, you can see the same exhibit on the computer monitor if you wish to.
Okay.
And that might help pick up the microphone better as we go through this.
so we'll start with 82. What are we looking at there, and what did you personally observe when you were out there?
So there's the mowed section of the grass, which is just south of the barn. There's a, the stack of old logs sitting there, but to the right is where we could see what appeared to be two tire marks going into the deeper grass.
Did you follow those tire marks?
Yes, I did.
Excuse me, 83, just a different view of those tire marks.
Yep.
84, what are we looking at there?
Just a continuation of the tire marks, where the tire marks end. There was another area of depressed grass, which would have been, if we're looking at the two tire marks, where they stop, there's another area of depressed grass in all different directions at the end of it, sitting right there.
Okay. We'll go to 85. This is maybe looking more into the woods at this point.
Yeah, so if you're standing near where all that grass was patted down at the end of the tire marks in the grass, you look over and you can see more of the grass is like pressed down, heading towards the woods.
And was that, we're seeing it on a photograph, but I'll ask you, because you were out there, was it apparent to you that this was an area that had been walked through or trampled in some way by someone or something?
Yes,
And did you follow it?
yes, I did.
Okay, and so you entered the woods right there?
Correct.
All right, we're going to pause 1 second. On this big blow up, if you could just stand up for 1 second and point to the jury on exhibit number 57, where you cut into the woods.
At the end of the mowed section here, two tire marks follow along the grass, and you can see like these white boxes, those are the old beehives. And then right after that, we're cuts into the woods.
All right, for the record, the witness ran his hands essentially down the wood line from the junk pile to the beehives and then drug them into the woods. Okay.
No objection.
Very good.
'86 photograph of that trampled area. '87, what are we looking at there?
So, picture doesn't show it as much, but there's, again, you can see the vegetation in the ground there, but it was very directional as far as this area, to see like this log. The vegetation had been trampled down. So it's hard to tell from this picture, but there's actually a downward slope here. If the trees weren't here, it'd be a good little sledding hill for little kids, but there's like a downward slope that goes down into, you can see like a little brush pile down there.
Okay. 88, what are we looking at there?
More of the trampled grass that goes to this log that goes across. And then you can see they get the green moss on the log, but there's areas where the green moss had been scraped off as if something had scraped it off.
Did you notice anything ultimately beyond that log at this point?
Yeah, the pile of sticks on the other side of the log, and there was just something that wasn't natural under the sticks.
Did you go check it out?
Yeah, I got as close as I had to.
89, the photo just moving a little bit closer.
Yep, yeah, again, you see the scrapes on the log there, just under the moss, and then you can see the pile of sticks there, and there's something underneath it. Couldn't quite tell what it was right away, so I stepped over the log and got a little bit of a closer look.
And what did you find?
I didn't know what it was at first.
What do you mean by that?
It took me a while to process what I was seeing. then became obvious that I was looking at a human torso.
Okay. So we're going to move in a little bit closer to photograph 90. And again, we're starting to maybe be able to see that, what you saw that day,
Yes.
under those sticks. Okay. Going to 91, a different view of kind of looking at through those sticks.
Yeah, and this is about the view that I had. You could see the flesh-colored skin on the right, and the belt and pants, and a black rope attached to it. And you can see the rope coming out from the bottom of the stick pile.
Okay, we're going to go to the next photo, which is 92. Just a close-up of under those sticks.
Yes.
At this point, counsel, I will caution and remind the jurors that obviously at some point these photographs will become more explicit as necessary for the state's case in chief. And I just remind you to observe them for whatever length of time you believe is necessary as a juror to do your job. If anyone needs a pause, we'll be happy to do that. And I know Attorney Brown or other counsel, if they're using any of these photos, will alert you every time the photo is going to change so that if you have diverted your gaze, you'll know to look back to see the next photo. Please continue. Thank you.
Okay. We'll go to the next photo, 93. What are we looking at there?
That's the rope that was attached to the body.
Is the
Go to the
rope in
next.
the upper right-hand corner?
No, it's all throughout the picture there. I don't know if you can see it from your
Oh,
angle,
okay.
but
Thank you.
it's all throughout the picture there.
Thank you.
We'll
Kind
go
of
to the
coiled
next
up like a snake.
photo, which is 94. Now, we're briefly going to turn away, but what is that?
That's a garbage can.
And where was that in relation to the torso?
So in relation to, so this is back up closer to the top of the hill. Off to the right, out of picture, would be where the beehive boxes were.
And that tarp was out there around the time you found the torso? Or that garbage can?
The garbage can was there. The tarp was inside of it.
Excuse me. And then, is this a close-up, exhibit number 95?
Yes.
Now, moving back, obviously, number 96, we're back to looking at that pile of sticks, correct?
Correct. We're looking at the human torso underneath the pile of sticks.
Was it a considerable pile of debris on top of the torso? If you could describe it any way you could.
You know, it wasn't natural to, it looked like it had been accumulated and placed on top. There wasn't another pile of sticks nearby. Similarly, it was mostly a collection of dead wood that was placed on top.
Okay. The next photo is number 97. Just looking at it from a different angle.
Yeah, and there you can see the belt with the rope tied around the waist.
Okay. So the rope was both off to the side, and you saw it around the waist.
Correct.
Okay. Number 98. What am I looking at there?
You're looking at the torso with, I believe that's going to be the most obvious sign would be like the right shoulder with the arm severed off, the head missing.
Okay. We'll go to the next photo, which is 99. What are we looking at there?
At the upper shoulders of the back of the torso.
We'll go to the next photo, which is 100. What are we looking at there?
You can see the back of the torso. Again, you see the belt and the pants, the rope tied around the waist. You see the back hair is pretty visible.
Okay. Now, I know we're looking at these all at once, but I think you mentioned earlier on the way out to the property, knowing what you had heard, you'd already called Barry Ehrman, who's the director of the medical examiner's office. At some point, other people arrived during this search, right, from the medical examiner's office, and things of that sort?
Yes.
Okay. And while we're looking at them all in one group, there was a removal of the debris at some points over the torso, kind of supervised by everyone who was out there, making sure it was done correctly.
Correct.
Okay. So the next photo, we're going to start to see what that looked like maybe after some of the debris was removed, okay? We're going to go to photograph 101. And just describe that if you could for the record.
Again, it's the torso we found, however, all the branches have been removed from the top of it.
Okay. Was that the position it was in after all the branches were removed?
Yes.
Okay. And I think you testified previously that the limbs were severed in the head. A couple different views of that exist in terms of photographs. So we're going to go to exhibit number 102. And is that a different view?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Now, anatomically, standing, how the body is it facing down? If the head were still present, would it be facing down? Are we looking at that person's back?
Yes, the chest would be toward the ground at this point. Back is facing upward.
Okay. We're going to go to the next photograph, which is 103. And what is that?
That is a defect in the back, which would indicate, at least from the number of times that I've seen it personally, that there was a wound there.
Okay. Consistent with a bullet wound?
Yeah, and I'm going to object at this point as to foundation and expertise.
I'll sustain. I think the description of a defect is appropriate based upon what we have as a foundation.
Sure. We'll hear from the medical examiners later, Detective, but I'm going to go back one photograph to 102. Is that defect present in that photograph as well?
Yes, it is.
And if you could just again, you know how it works with court, we're taking a record. Could you describe physically on the torso where that defect is on that person?
In the center of the back, probably, 8 inches above the belt line,
So
6 to 8 inches.
Understood. We'll go back to 103, which we've already looked at. We're going to look at the next photograph, which is 104. What are we looking at there?
We're looking at what would be the buttocks of the torso, the belt, and the pants, which appeared to have been cut at the top left of the screen, as well as some red staining along the pants, and the rope again tied around the waist.
And I'll go to number 105. Here we see someone manipulating that clothing. Someone involved in the investigation, obviously.
Yes.
Okay. What are we looking at there?
We're looking at the upper portion of the pants where the what would be just underneath the back of the belt to where the pants meet, that the fabric had began to tear.
Obviously, the torso needed to be removed from the area it was in and taken somewhere else.
Yes,
Okay. That was done by the medical examiner.
correct.
Doctors came out and helped with that.
Yes,
In the process of doing that, part of what happens is the torso is moved from maybe where it is onto a bag or a sheet, something of that sort, right, for transport?
it would be placed into a sealed, in my experience, every time we've done it, it's always placed into what would be called a body bag. Sometimes different size bags are used, but yeah, it would be to preserve anything that was on it and to transport it.
Okay. And that was done in this case.
Yes.
I'm going to show the next exhibit, 106. Is that the beginnings of that process of rolling the torso over and maybe onto a more sterile surface?
Yes.
Okay. And now we're looking at the front of that torso.
Correct.
And I'm going to go to the last exhibit, 107. After the torso was rolled over, something was found underneath it. Black item, correct?
Yeah, you could see it even when the torso, it was sticking out from underneath it. It was a black T-shirt. You can see the many maggots that were crawling around the shirt and around the wounds on the torso.
Okay. Judge, can we shut this off? Thank you. Couple of questions about that. You said that there were some maggots and things of that sort. Were insects and the natural processes beginning to become a problem for that torso in your observation?
Become a problem for the torso?
In terms of the deterioration of the torso, were there insects and things of that sort around?
Well, typically we'll call in a forensic entomologist, but it's part of the decomposition process when any animal or any living tissue is exposed to the elements. Flies will come, they'll lay their eggs. Within a certain amount of time, those eggs will hatch into maggots, and the maggots will feed and begin to consume and continue on with the process of breaking down the body.
We're coming to an end, but fair to say that, well, you may have been the first one to come upon this. A lot of people ultimately descended on this farm and got involved in the investigation at that point.
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, we're probably going to hear from you again in this case, aren't we?
Probably, I would think so.
Okay. I have no further questions for now for the detective.
Cross-examination.
Nothing for now, thank you.
May the witness be excused but not released.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Detective, thank you. Have a good remainder of your day. Sir. Attorney Brown?
I think it would be a fair place to break for lunch.
I think we can do that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a little early, but I always think that it's either better to be well before noon or afternoon. But I don't know what your plans will be. It is almost 11:20, and let's plan on being back at about 12:45, so we can start shortly after that. It's a little bit more than an hour, but I want to make sure you have enough time. If something causes you to run late that you run into, we'll be here, we'll wait. Thank you for everything this morning. And again, I remind you, leave what you have seen and heard here. Don't discuss it with anyone or overhear or take part in any discussions or do any steps to research or learn any more information while you're away from the courtroom. And I hope enjoying some time. Thank you.
All right, for the jury.